Mom, if you don't like it, you can leave. Those words came from my daughter's mouth like she was discussing the weather. My name is Helen Cartwright. I'm 72 years old. I was a librarian for 40 years in Cedar Falls, Iowa. I became a widow 3 years ago when my husband James died of cancer. I have one daughter, Olivia, who today looked at me like I was a stranger she needed to remove from her home. A problem to be solved. Hello everyone, before we continue, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. I had just returned from the grocery store, my arms full of bags containing ingredients for Olivia's favorite pot roast. The recipe James had loved. The one I made every Sunday for 43 years. But standing in the driveway of what used to be my home, I saw my suitcases. 3 brown cases sitting by the garage door like abandoned children waiting for someone to claim them. My hands went numb and the grocery bag slipped, eggs cracking on the concrete, milk pooling around my shoes like spilled tears. Olivia stood in the doorway with her mother-in-law, Beatrice Hammond. Beatrice was holding a set of keys. My keys. The spare set I'd given Olivia for emergencies, for times when she might need help, need me. Beatrice wore a cream cardigan that looked expensive, cashmere probably, her silver hair styled perfectly in waves that must have cost $200 at the salon. Her smile was sharp as a knife. She looked like she'd already moved in, already claimed what was mine, already erased me from the house my husband and I had helped buy. We talked about this, Mom, Olivia said, but we hadn't. We absolutely hadn't. There had been no conversation, no warning, no chance to defend myself or understand what I'd done wrong. Her husband Marcus stood behind her, his face turned away, unable or unwilling to meet my eyes. Coward. Beatrice stepped forward, her heels clicking on the porch I'd swept that very morning before going to buy groceries for a family that was now throwing me away. Helen, dear, you understand. Olivia needs support right now. Real support. Someone who knows how to run a proper household, someone with experience. My throat closed. Real support. As if 30 years of raising Olivia alone after her father worked himself to death meant nothing. As if moving into this house 6 months ago to help with the new baby meant nothing. As if cooking, cleaning, loving them, waking up at 3 a.m. when Benjamin cried so Olivia could sleep meant nothing. Beatrice's smile widened, showing too many teeth. She was enjoying this. She was savoring my confusion, my pain, my absolute disbelief that my daughter was choosing this woman, this stranger, over me. Where am I supposed to go? My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it, for showing weakness in front of this woman who was taking my place. Olivia finally looked at me, and I saw guilt flash across her face before Beatrice touched her shoulder, a possessive gesture, a signal. You'll figure it out, Helen. You're a resourceful woman. Besides, it's time you lived your own life again. You've sacrificed enough. Time to focus on yourself. Beatrice's words were poison wrapped in silk, manipulation disguised as concern. The front door closed. I stood there, 72 years old, staring at my suitcases in the November cold, wondering how my daughter had become someone I didn't recognize. Wondering what I'd done to deserve this. Wondering if I'd somehow failed as a mother without realizing it. I called Olivia 17 times that night from the motel room I could barely afford on my fixed income. The Sunset Motor Lodge, where the neon sign flickered and the carpet smelled like decades of cigarettes and defeat. She answered once, on the 13th call, and her voice was tired, distant, like I was a telemarketer interrupting dinner or a stranger asking for directions. Mom, please. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You're being dramatic. Making it harder? I had given up my small apartment to move in with them. The cozy one-bedroom near the library where I'd lived since James died, where I'd been building a quiet, peaceful life. I had nowhere to go. No home to return to. The landlord had already rented it to a young couple. All my furniture was in storage or donated. My entire life had been dismantled to help my daughter, and now I was disposable. Olivia, I need to understand. Did I do something wrong? Did I overstep? Did I criticize you? Please, baby, just tell me what I did. My voice shook as I sat on the scratchy motel bedspread, surrounded by the smell of old cigarettes and industrial cleaner that couldn't quite mask the underlying odor of hopelessness. She sighed, a long, frustrated sound like I was a child refusing to understand simple instructions. Mom, Beatrice helped me see things clearly. You were becoming dependent. Always hovering. Always offering advice nobody asked for. I need space. I need someone who understands modern parenting, someone who doesn't undermine my decisions. Dependent. Hovering. Undermining. The words hit like slaps, each one landing with precision, targeting my deepest insecurities as a mother and widow. I had been helping. I had been loving my grandson, keeping the house clean while Olivia recovered from a difficult delivery that had required emergency surgery. I had been being a mother, doing what mothers do. Beatrice has experience with 4 children, Olivia continued, her voice gaining confidence now, like she was reciting a script she'd memorized, practiced until it sounded natural. She knows about nutrition, sleep schedules, developmental milestones. She's organized. She's efficient. She doesn't take things personally or make everything about her feelings. I realized then that these weren't Olivia's words. They were too polished, too deliberately cruel, too precisely aimed at my vulnerabilities. Beatrice had been coaching her, slowly poisoning my daughter's perception of me over weeks or maybe months. Turning my love into neediness. My help into interference. My presence into a burden that needed to be removed. When can I come back? I whispered, hating the desperation in my voice but unable to stop it. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, I don't think you can, Mom. Not while Beatrice is here. And she's going to be here for a while. Maybe permanently. The call ended. I sat in that motel room until dawn, watching the neon sign flicker outside my window. Red. Blue. Red. Blue. The rhythm of my new life. By morning, I had cried myself empty and made a decision. I would find a place to live. I would give them space. But I wouldn't disappear. I wouldn't let Beatrice erase me from my daughter's life, from my grandson's memory. I would watch. I would wait. And I would find out exactly who Beatrice Hammond really was. Because women who erase other women, who steal their places and their families, always have secrets. 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment above a bakery in downtown Cedar Falls. It was tiny, barely 400 square feet, with a bathroom so small I could touch both walls at once and a kitchenette that consisted of a hot plate, a mini fridge, and 2 feet of counter space. But it was mine. I furnished it with pieces from the Salvation Army, a sagging couch, a scratched table, a bed frame that squeaked. Every morning, the smell of fresh bread rose through the floorboards, reminding me I was still alive, still here. I tried to see my grandson, Benjamin. I called. I texted. I sent carefully worded messages trying to sound casual, non-threatening, not needy or hovering like Beatrice had labeled me. Olivia's responses were brief, cold, each one a small rejection that accumulated into a mountain of pain. Not a good time. He's napping. Beatrice has a schedule we need to maintain. Each rejection carved another piece from my heart. I drove by the house once, parked down the street like a criminal, like a stalker, and watched Beatrice push Benjamin in the stroller I had bought with my social security check. She walked like she owned the sidewalk, the neighborhood, my family. Her posture was confident, almost triumphant. She waved to neighbors who used to wave to me. She stopped at the park where I used to take Benjamin, sat on the bench where I used to sit. Then I saw the Facebook posts. Olivia had never been big on social media before, rarely posting more than once a month. But suddenly her page was full of pictures, multiple posts every day. Beatrice holding Benjamin. Beatrice reading to Benjamin. Beatrice at the park, the grocery store, the pediatrician, everywhere I used to be. The captions praised her effusively, over the top in a way that didn't sound like Olivia's voice, so grateful for this amazing woman. Don't know what I'd do without her wisdom and support. The best grandmother Benjamin could ask for. As if I had never existed. As if 3 years of widowhood spent loving them, helping them, being there for every milestone meant nothing. As if I could be replaced as easily as replacing old furniture. The comments were worse. Friends congratulating Olivia on having such wonderful support, on being blessed with such a caring mother-in-law. The worst came on a Thursday evening in early December. Olivia posted a photo of Beatrice wearing a necklace. A simple gold chain with a small diamond pendant, nothing ostentatious, but it caught the light beautifully in the photo. I recognized it immediately. My heart stopped. James had given it to me on our 30th anniversary, 3 months before he died. It was the last piece of jewelry he ever bought me. I had left it in my room, in the jewelry box on my dresser, assuming my belongings were packed safely, waiting for me. I called Olivia immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. She answered, annoyed, her voice sharp. What, Mom? I'm busy. The necklace Beatrice is wearing in that photo. That's mine. Dad gave it to me for our anniversary. It was in my jewelry box. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, she found it in a drawer when she was organizing. She asked if she could borrow it for a charity event. I said yes. It's just a necklace, Mom. Don't be petty about jewelry. My last gift from my dead husband, the man who'd loved me for 43 years, and I was being petty for wanting it back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small bed above the bakery, listening to the ovens rumble below as they prepared tomorrow's bread, and felt something shift inside me. Grief was transforming into something else. Something colder. Something harder. Something that felt almost like steel forming in my spine. I needed to know who Beatrice Hammond really was. Because women who erase other women, who take their places and their jewelry and their families, always have secrets. Dark secrets. And I was going to find them. If you're enjoying this story, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything to us. Now let's continue. I started with Google. Simple, basic research. Beatrice Hammond, Cedar Falls, Iowa. Nothing unusual appeared at first, just the surface layer that people want you to see. A few social media profiles showing her at charity events and church functions. Some mentions in church bulletins thanking her for donations. A photo from a gala where she wore an expensive gown. She looked respectable, wealthy, generous. The perfect grandmother. The perfect replacement. But I had been a librarian for 4 decades. I knew how to dig deeper than the surface. I knew how to find the stories hidden beneath the polished veneer people presented to the world. I tried variations of her name, the way I'd taught patrons to search for genealogy records. Beatrice L. Hammond. B. Hammond. B. Hammond. Nothing new appeared. Then I tried adding her maiden name, which I remembered from Olivia's wedding program where the parents were listed, Beatrice Sutherland. Suddenly, the results changed dramatically. Court records. Bankruptcy filings. Lawsuit after lawsuit, a trail of legal destruction stretching across 3 states in 15 years. My hands started shaking as I clicked through page after page of legal documents, each one painting a darker picture of a woman who was nothing like the respectable grandmother my daughter believed in. Beatrice had filed for bankruptcy twice. Once in Michigan 15 years ago, once in Ohio 10 years ago. Both times, she'd left behind dozens of creditors, angry business partners, and accusations of fraud that somehow never quite resulted in criminal charges. She was smart, always staying just on the edge of legality, always having explanations. One lawsuit described in painful detail how she'd convinced a group of investors to fund a luxury senior living facility that never materialized beyond architectural drawings and a cleared lot. Another detailed how she'd borrowed money from friends for a boutique clothing store that closed after 6 months, leaving nothing but empty shelves, broken promises, and friendships destroyed. The pattern was clear and consistent. Beatrice would move to a new place, establish herself in the community through church involvement and charity work, gain people's trust with her charm and apparent wealth, and then convince them to invest in her schemes. When everything collapsed, as it always did, she'd declare bankruptcy, move again, and start over in a new town where nobody knew her history. She was a con artist. A professional manipulator. A predator who targeted good people and destroyed their lives. And now she was living in my daughter's house, probably planning her next move, probably seeing Olivia and Marcus as her newest marks. I printed everything, spending $20 at the library on printing fees. Every court document, every bankruptcy filing, every lawsuit summary, every creditor claim. I filled a folder 2 inches thick with evidence of who Beatrice Hammond really was beneath the cashmere cardigans and charity galas. Then I remembered something Olivia had mentioned casually a month ago, before everything fell apart, before Beatrice had poisoned everything between us. She and Marcus were talking about starting a business. A coffee shop franchise. They'd been saving for years, planning carefully, dreaming of financial independence and leaving something for Benjamin. And Beatrice had been so supportive, Olivia had said. So encouraging. So full of ideas and connections and business wisdom. My blood ran cold. I opened my laptop again and searched for details of Beatrice's latest bankruptcy, the Ohio one from 10 years ago. The court documents mentioned a coffee distribution business that had failed spectacularly after 18 months, leaving her son-in-law, her own daughter's husband, responsible for $70,000 in debt. This was her pattern exactly. She attached herself to family members, convinced them to fund her schemes with promises of wealth and success, and when everything collapsed under the weight of her incompetence and fraud, she walked away while they drowned in debt. And she was doing it again. She was doing it to my daughter right now. I needed access to their financial records, but I had no legal right to them anymore. I was just the discarded mother, the burden who'd been replaced by someone better, someone more organized and efficient and modern. Then I remembered the shared cloud account. Years ago, when Olivia had first married Marcus, they'd asked me to join a family cloud storage for sharing photos of their honeymoon and wedding. I'd forgotten about it completely, barely used it after the first few months. But my login credentials were saved in my browser. I tried them, expecting them to fail. They worked. And people always forgot what they'd uploaded to the cloud over the years. I logged in, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. There were thousands of photos going back 5 years, videos of Benjamin's first steps, tax documents from multiple years, insurance papers, mortgage statements. And then I found a folder titled Business Plans, Hammond Family Enterprises. Inside were detailed projections for what looked like a business empire. Coffee shops, yes, but also real estate investments, import businesses, consulting firms, a dozen ventures that all required massive capital investment. And every single one listed Beatrice as CEO and primary visionary with Marcus and Olivia as junior partners. The documents showed that Marcus and Olivia were planning to take out a $200,000 business loan, secured against their house. My house. The house James and I had helped them buy with our life savings as a wedding gift, $25,000 we'd saved over decades of careful budgeting. Beatrice had convinced them to risk everything on her schemes, using business projections that looked professional but were probably as fraudulent as everything else about her. The loan application was scheduled for review in 3 weeks. If approved, my daughter would be tied to Beatrice financially, legally, completely. And when it all collapsed, as it always did with Beatrice, they would lose everything. I called my old friend Margaret, who'd retired from First National Bank years ago but still had contacts throughout the local financial community. I sent her everything I'd found on Beatrice, every bankruptcy filing, every lawsuit, every failed business. 2 days later, Margaret called back, her voice grave and worried. "Helen, this woman is dangerous. She's been reported to fraud task forces in 3 states. Nothing stuck because she's smart about staying just on the edge of legal, always having explanations, always declaring bankruptcy before criminal charges can be filed. But her victims? They lost homes, retirement savings, marriages. One man is living in his car. You need to stop this before it's too late." But how? If I went to Olivia directly, she wouldn't believe me. Beatrice had spent weeks, maybe months, turning my daughter against me, painting me as jealous, petty, desperate for attention, unable to let go. Any warning from me would sound like a bitter mother trying to sabotage her daughter's future out of spite. I needed proof that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. I needed to expose Beatrice in a way that was undeniable, public, and permanent. I needed a plan that would protect my daughter while also forcing her to see the truth. I needed to be smart, strategic, and absolutely certain. I spent the next week preparing meticulously. I contacted the loan officer at First National Bank, Raymond Foster, the one reviewing Marcus and Olivia's application according to the documents I'd found. I gathered every piece of evidence against Beatrice, organizing it chronologically, building a narrative that anyone could follow. I documented her bankruptcies, her lawsuits, her pattern of fraud spanning 15 years and 3 states. I compiled testimony from her previous victims, people who'd lost everything because they trusted her charm and believed her promises. And then I waited. Because Beatrice had announced on Facebook that she was throwing a celebration party. A lavish party to launch Hammond Family Enterprises. A party where the bank's loan officer would be the guest of honor. She was so confident, so certain of her victory, that she was celebrating before the loan was even approved. That arrogance would be her downfall. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. Drop a comment below telling us what you think Helen should do next. And now, let's see how this unfolds. The party invitation appeared on Olivia's Facebook page, pinned to the top so everyone would see it. It was elegant, expensive-looking, professionally designed with gold lettering announcing the launch celebration for Hammond Family Enterprises. The date was set for Saturday evening at the house, my house, where I'd lived until Beatrice decided my room was better suited for her. The invitation listed special guests, including Mr. Raymond Foster, senior loan officer at First National Bank. Beatrice was making this public, making it an event, probably to pressure the bank into approval through social commitment. It was a manipulation tactic, and probably one that had worked for her before. I had 1 week to finalize everything, to make absolutely certain my plan would work. I contacted an attorney, a sharp woman named Victoria Reeves who specialized in fraud cases and had a reputation for being ruthless when protecting clients. She reviewed my evidence carefully, taking 3 days to verify every document, every court record, every victim statement. "This loan will be approved unless someone presents this information to the bank," Victoria finally said, her voice firm and certain. "And it needs to be done in a way that protects your daughter legally, that doesn't make her liable for any of Beatrice's past fraud." Together, we prepared a comprehensive report that was ironclad, unassailable, meticulously documented. It included verified copies of Beatrice's bankruptcy filings with official court stamps. Court judgments against her totaling over $300,000. And sworn statements from 3 of her previous victims, people Victoria had tracked down and convinced to tell their stories. One man in Ohio had lost his entire retirement funding his senior care consulting business with Beatrice, money he'd saved for 30 years gone in 18 months. A woman in Michigan had lost her house after co-signing a loan for Beatrice's wellness center that never opened, never even got close to opening. Another family had been torn apart by debt after trusting Beatrice with their savings for a real estate development that existed only on paper. Victoria helped me draft a cover letter addressed to Mr. Foster. It was professional, factual, and absolutely devastating. It outlined Beatrice's pattern of fraud, her use of family members as financial shields and scapegoats, and her history of leaving bankruptcy and debt in her wake wherever she went. "This isn't about revenge," Victoria reminded me firmly, looking me in the eye to make sure I understood. "This is about protecting your daughter from financial ruin that could follow her for decades. Remember that when you deliver this. You're not being vindictive. You're being a mother." I practiced what I would say, how I would present myself, how I would hand over the report without appearing emotional or vengeful. I couldn't appear angry. I couldn't seem like a bitter mother-in-law trying to sabotage her daughter out of jealousy. I had to be calm, composed, professional, a concerned mother armed with facts and evidence that spoke for themselves. I bought a simple navy dress from the thrift store, the kind librarians wear to board meetings, conservative and respectable. I had my hair done at the salon, nothing fancy, just neat and professional. I printed the entire report on high-quality paper and placed it in a professional leather portfolio that Victoria lent me. I looked at myself in the mirror the night before the party. I looked like someone who dealt in truth, not emotion. Someone who couldn't be dismissed as hysterical or vindictive. Someone who had done her research and had nothing but facts to present. The night before the party, I barely slept at all. I kept imagining scenarios, playing them out in my mind. What if Olivia threw me out before I could reach Mr. Foster? What if Beatrice had somehow anticipated this and prepared her own defense? What if my daughter never forgave me for humiliating her at her own party, for destroying her dreams in front of everyone she knew? But then I thought about the man in Ohio, now 70 years old, eating meals at the food bank 3 times a week because Beatrice had taken his retirement. I thought about the woman in Michigan who'd lost her house and now lived with her sister, her credit destroyed, her life shattered. I thought about my daughter, my Olivia, about to sign away her future to a predator. I got up, made coffee in my little kitchenette, and watched the sun rise over Cedar Falls through my small window. Today, I would save my daughter whether she wanted me to or not. Today, I would do the shocking thing that needed to be done. I arrived at 6 o'clock exactly, precisely when the invitation specified guests should arrive. The house was completely transformed, barely recognizable as the place where I'd lived 6 months ago. White lights hung from the porch in elegant swoops. Catering vans lined the driveway. People in expensive clothes mingled on the lawn where Benjamin used to play, where I used to push him on his little slide. And there, standing near the front door with a champagne glass, talking to a couple I recognized from Olivia's church, was Mr. Raymond Foster from the bank, exactly where I needed him to be. I wore my navy dress and carried the leather portfolio carefully, like it contained something precious and fragile, which in a way it did. As I walked up the driveway, conversations stopped one by one, rippling outward like stones thrown in a pond. People stared. I was the ghost at the feast, the discarded mother crashing her own daughter's party, and everyone knew the story. Small towns talk. Everyone knew Beatrice had replaced me. Everyone had probably discussed it at church, at the grocery store, wondering what I'd done to deserve it. Beatrice saw me first. Her smile froze on her face, her champagne glass stopping halfway to her lips. Her eyes hardened into chips of ice, cold and calculating. She moved to intercept me, her heels clicking rapidly on the walkway, but I walked past her, politely but firmly, heading straight for the house entrance where Olivia stood greeting guests. "Mom." Olivia's face went completely pale, all the blood draining away in shock. "What are you doing here? You weren't invited." Her voice was low, urgent, embarrassed, looking around to see who was watching. Marcus appeared beside her immediately, his expression caught between guilt and annoyance, uncomfortable with confrontation. "Mrs. Cartwright, this isn't appropriate," he started, trying to use his engineering voice, his reasonable voice, but I cut him off. "I need 5 minutes of Mr. Foster's time. It concerns your loan application. It's important. Extremely important." Beatrice was suddenly there, her hand on Olivia's shoulder, possessive and controlling, her voice honey-sweet and condescending. "Helen, dear, tonight isn't the time for family drama. This is a celebration. Please don't embarrass yourself further." But Mr. Foster had heard his name mentioned. He approached, curious, professional, probably assuming I wanted to discuss my own banking needs. "Mrs. Cartwright? I'm Raymond Foster. Is there something I can help you with this evening?" I opened the portfolio with steady hands and handed him the report, the culmination of weeks of research and preparation. "Mr. Foster, I have information relevant to the loan application you're reviewing for my daughter and son-in-law. It concerns their business partner, Mrs. Beatrice Hammond. I believe you'll find it absolutely necessary to your decision. Critical, in fact." He took the document, his expression neutral, his face showing the trained professionalism of someone who'd handled awkward situations for 30 years. As he read the cover letter though, his eyebrows rose steadily higher. "Mrs. Hammond has filed for bankruptcy twice?" He looked up at Beatrice with surprise. She laughed, a brittle sound like breaking glass. "Those are misunderstandings. Ancient history. Business ventures that simply didn't work out. Every entrepreneur faces failures." But Mr. Foster was already flipping through the pages, his face growing more serious with each bankruptcy filing, each lawsuit summary, each victim statement. The party noise was fading as people nearby stopped talking, sensing confrontation, sensing scandal. "This report indicates a pattern of fraudulent business schemes using family members as financial shields," Mr. Foster said quietly, his voice professional but concerned. 3 separate fraud investigations. $70,000 in debt left to your previous son-in-law in Ohio. Multiple judgments totaling over $300,000. "Mrs. Hammond, these are verified public court records. I'll need to review this thoroughly before any loan decision can be made." Olivia reached for the portfolio, her hands shaking, but Mr. Foster held it away protectively. Beatrice's face transformed in an instant, from shock to pure rage. The mask had finally slipped completely, and everyone standing nearby could see the predator beneath the grandmother costume, the con artist beneath the cashmere cardigan. "This is slander. Libel. Defamation." Beatrice's voice cut through the party like a knife through silk. Her face was flushed dark red, her carefully styled hair coming loose from its pins. "Helen is a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand that her daughter chose someone else, someone better. This is all lies, fabricated nonsense designed to ruin me." But Mr. Foster wasn't listening to her anymore. He was reading the victim's statements carefully, his expression growing darker with each paragraph, each story of financial ruin. The party guests had formed a loose circle around us, sensing major scandal, nobody wanting to leave and miss whatever happened next. Olivia grabbed my arm hard, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise, hard enough to hurt. "Mom, what have you done? This is my business launch. This is my future. You're ruining everything. Is this revenge? Is this because I asked you to leave?" Her voice cracked, torn between fury and tears, between defending Beatrice and doubting her for the first time. Marcus was reading over Mr. Foster's shoulder, his engineering mind processing information quickly, his face draining of color as he recognized names, dates, amounts, patterns. "Beatrice, what is this? Who is Stephen Sutherland? Why does it say he was your son-in-law?" "He's no one," Beatrice snapped, her voice losing all its honey sweetness, all its grandmother warmth, becoming harsh and defensive. "An ex-husband of my daughter who tried to blame his own business failures on me. This is ancient history being dredged up by a vindictive woman who can't accept that she's been replaced." But her voice had lost its confidence. She was cornered, exposed, and she knew it. The carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. Mr. Foster closed the portfolio and looked at Marcus and Olivia with genuine sympathy, the kind bankers show when denying loans to people they actually like. "I cannot approve a loan for a business partnership with someone who has this financial and legal history. I'm sorry, but First National has strict policies regarding fraud risk and fiduciary responsibility. This application will be formally denied Monday morning. I strongly recommend you both consult with an attorney before proceeding with any business ventures with Mrs. Hammond." The words hit Olivia like a physical blow. She released my arm, stumbling back a step, her whole body swaying. "Denied? But we've been planning this for 2 years. We've invested everything we had. The deposits, the permits, the equipment orders. $30,000 already spent." Marcus caught her, his own shock evident, his face blank with disbelief. Beatrice tried one last desperate time to salvage the situation, to manipulate her way out like she'd probably done dozens of times before. "Raymond, surely we can discuss this privately, professionally, away from this circus. There are explanations for everything in that report. Those court records are taken out of context, twisted by creditors who didn't understand the businesses. I've been rehabilitated. I'm a changed woman. I've learned from my mistakes. But I had one more card to play, one more piece of evidence that Victoria had helped me find, the one that would end this completely. Beatrice, what happened to the coffee distribution business in Minnesota? The one that left your son-in-law, Thomas Hammond, responsible for $70,000 in debt? The business you started just 18 months ago using the same projections, the same promises, the same business plan you showed my daughter? The one that collapsed and forced Thomas to declare bankruptcy himself, destroying his credit for 7 years? The crowd murmured, whispers spreading rapidly through the guests. Thomas Hammond. Her own son's husband. She'd done this to her own family, to her own child's spouse. Beatrice's face went white, then red, then white again, color draining and flooding in waves. She looked around desperately at the crowd, at Olivia's devastated face, at Marcus's dawning understanding, at Mr. Foster's professional disapproval. She looked for allies and found none. She had nowhere to go, no more masks to wear, no more lies that would work. "You have no idea what you've done," she hissed at me, her voice low and venomous, full of pure hatred. "You've destroyed your relationship with your daughter. She'll never forgive you for this humiliation." Then she turned and walked through the crowd, people parting for her like she carried disease. She walked through the house, and we heard the back door slam. Minutes later, a car started in the back alley. She was gone, fleeing again, running like she always did. But this time, she hadn't gotten the money first. This time, I had stopped her. This time, someone had protected her intended victims. The party dissolved rapidly after Beatrice left. Guests departed quickly, some trying to offer sympathetic words to Olivia and Marcus, most just embarrassed, gossiping already about what they'd witnessed, about the drama that would fuel conversations for months. Marcus ushered Mr. Foster out with profuse apologies and promises to reschedule a discussion about their financial future once they'd sorted everything out. Mr. Foster left looking relieved to escape the awkwardness. Olivia stood frozen in the foyer, completely still, staring at nothing, her dreams of Hammond family enterprises crumbling around her like ash. I wanted desperately to comfort her, to hold her like I had when she was a child, but I knew she wasn't ready. She needed time to process what had happened. Marcus went upstairs to check Beatrice's bedroom and came back down carrying a box, his face tight with anger. She's gone. Took everything. All her clothes, her jewelry. He paused. And she took your necklace too, Helen. The one from your husband. I'm sorry. Of course she had. Thieves don't return what they've stolen. But she'd left behind boxes of documents, evidence of her schemes. Fraudulent business plans, forged letters of recommendation from people who didn't exist, fake financial statements she'd planned to use for the loan. Marcus brought them downstairs, his hands shaking visibly. How did I not see this? How did we both miss every red flag? She showed us these projections. She introduced us to investors who were probably actors. How did we fall for it? Olivia finally moved, walking like someone in a dream to the couch and sitting down heavily, the weight of realization crushing her. Mom came home from the grocery store, and I had her suitcases packed. I told my own mother to leave. I chose a con artist over the woman who raised me. She poisoned me against you, Mom. She made me believe you were the problem. She said you were controlling, jealous, trying to interfere with my marriage and my parenting. She's had decades of practice manipulating people, finding their insecurities, using them. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You were targeted by a professional predator. Olivia shook her head, tears finally coming. But you're my mother. I should have trusted you. I kicked you out of your own house. I let her wear Dad's necklace. I posted pictures like you didn't exist. Marcus sat on her other side, putting the fraudulent documents on the coffee table. We need to call the police. This is fraud, identity theft, forgery. She can't just disappear and do this to another family. I nodded. I have a lawyer. Victoria Reeves. She's expecting to hear from you. She can help you report this properly, protect yourselves legally. The three of us sat in silence for a while, the wreckage of the evening settling around us. Then Olivia turned to me, her face streaked with tears. Can you ever forgive me? I don't know how I can ever make this right. I took her hand, feeling how small it was, remembering when she was a little girl and I could fix any problem with a hug and a cookie. You already are making it right. You're seeing the truth. You're protecting your family. That's what matters now. We move forward from here. 3 months later, I moved back into the house. Not into my old room, that felt wrong to everyone, but into the guest room that Marcus had renovated for me. It had a small bathroom, a reading nook, and a window overlooking the garden where Benjamin played. Olivia insisted, and this time I knew her words were genuine. Please, Mom. We need you here. I need you here. And Benjamin needs his real grandmother. The police investigation into Beatrice was ongoing. She'd fled to Arizona, where apparently she'd already started ingratiating herself with a new family. But this time, the fraud task force was coordinating across states. This time, her victims were comparing notes, building a case. Victoria believed charges would eventually be filed. Beatrice's decades of running were catching up to her. Justice was slow, but it was coming. Olivia and Marcus abandoned Hammond Family Enterprises. They'd lost some money on deposits and permits, but my intervention had saved them from catastrophic debt. Marcus went back to his job at the engineering firm. Olivia returned to teaching part-time. They were building a quieter life, one not based on Beatrice's grandiose schemes. And they were going to therapy, together and individually, processing how they'd been manipulated. One Sunday, I made pot roast. James's recipe. Olivia's favorite. We ate together at the big dining room table, Benjamin in his high chair, smashing peas happily. Olivia reached across and squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry, Mom. For everything. For not trusting you. For choosing her. For being so blind." I squeezed back. "You trusted your mother-in-law. That's not a crime. It's what families should do. She betrayed that trust. You didn't fail. She did. The healing wasn't instant. Some days were harder than others." Olivia still felt guilty. I still felt the sting of rejection. But we talked now, really talked, about feelings and boundaries and the importance of questioning manipulation. We'd both learned that love isn't blind obedience. Real love asks questions. Real love protects. Real love sometimes has to do shocking things to save the people it cherishes. That night, after dinner, I sat in my reading nook with a cup of tea. The house was quiet. Benjamin was asleep. Olivia and Marcus were watching a movie downstairs. I thought about the moment I'd stood at that party, portfolio in hand, ready to destroy Beatrice's plans. People might say I'd been vindictive, cruel, that I'd humiliated my daughter publicly. But I'd saved her. I'd protected her from financial ruin and a predator's schemes. Sometimes the most loving thing a mother can do is the shocking thing. The hard thing. The thing that looks like revenge but is actually rescue. I'd done that. And I'd do it again without hesitation. Because that's what real mothers do. We protect our children even when they don't want us to. Especially when they don't want us to. That's what love really means. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. If Helen's journey touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with anyone who needs to remember their own strength and worth. Remember, setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's love. Protecting your family isn't revenge, it's responsibility. And standing up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's shocking, is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.